At the end of the video, we discuss some really fascinating BlackRock and Ripple news, as well as Trump's cryptocurrency report, which was released today. I want to discuss that in this one, along with a fresh round of XRP criticisms that 𝗙𝗶𝗆 himself addressed. We will be discussing those topics in detail in this video. Make sure to stay for the entire event because there is a lot to go over. As always, this channel really appreciates your support. We appreciate everyone who takes the time to subscribe to the channel and like these videos. I truly benefit greatly from these two little things. Additionally, as mentioned in the video's description, my favorite exchange, 𝗙𝗶𝗆, is a great location to get XRP if you're ever in the market. Having said that, let's get started, and I hope you all find the content enjoyable. We have a ton of fascinating topics to cover. As I mentioned in the video's introduction, let's start with the White House's latest crypto report. It's not so much what's in this Bitcoin study that makes it so fascinating. It seems like those of us who have been deep in the cryptocurrency sector likely already knew a lot of the items in this research. It did, however, formalize a lot of it. Things like the debanking and the unclear regulations are examples. Hey, we did a really bad job of basically regulating this market, and we need to have clear rules and guidelines moving forward so we don't do this again, was the statement made by all the agencies. All in all, it was quite pleasant to observe that. Returning to the cryptocurrency story, however, is one of the things that I find to be somewhat concealed in the tea leaves. This study uses a variety of terminology, and the political leaders who are truly driving this movement use terms like cryptocurrencies and digital assets rather than just Bitcoin. This is obviously quite exciting, in my opinion, given one of the main issues we were facing was the concern that this administration would be a bit more Bitcoin maximalist than many of us desired. But it looks like for whatever reason, they're kind of now taking a step back from that posture. Many of the individuals advancing these agendas seem to be emphasizing the phrases crypto and digital asset rather than merely Bitcoin, at least according to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. That, in my opinion, is one of the extremely good but hidden narratives from the recently released cryptocurrency research. Additionally, Brad Garlinghouse was directly quoted in this Bitcoin study when discussing the 𝗙𝗶𝗆 regulations. Ripple was so expressly mentioned here. There are several references to various cryptocurrency networks. It seems much more inclusive than a Bitcoin-only story now that everyone at the top is using the term cryptocurrency and terms like digital asset again. All of them, in my opinion, are excellent developments that are steering this sector in the correct way. In keeping with that, I found it quite surprised that they didn't discuss the Bitcoin strategic reserve. Another step back from the notion that Bitcoin will be the only option. In particular, there has been a lot of discussion around American-based cryptocurrencies like XRP, ETH, Solana, and ADA, which some believe the US government ought to be working with. In the early days, President Trump tweeted about this. They walked back. It seemed like some Bitcoin maxis were making a fit. They took certain actions to placate them in order to ensure that the bill crossed the finish line. However, it appears to me that there is a lot of initiative here to truly focus on digital assets and cryptocurrencies. And the rhetoric that the government is using makes that very clear. And that's arguably one of the most significant lessons I'm learning from these reports. Out of everything I've seen, it's rather pleasant to observe. One of the things that really worried me a lot was how this administration would be handled given the current division in the Bitcoin sector. But I think the thing that's going to be most important here is a lot of these individuals in power are going to be looking at this from a lot more of a traditional viewpoint. And one of the points I've been making on the channel is that many newcomers to the cryptocurrency space won't hold the same maximalist and idealistic views that the early Bitcoin community had. Therefore, I believe that a new generation of people will take over, and it seems very obvious to me that many of these various individuals in and around the Trump administration are clearly in favor of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. And it's not limited to Bitcoin supporters. And after reading this paper, I believe that is rather clear. And when it comes to the significance of that victory going forward, I believe it to be the biggest victory of all time. Even said, there are still a lot of nasty individuals and haters on XRP. 𝗙𝗶𝗆, a well-known YouTuber in the finance industry, has been attempting to discuss XRP even though he has little idea what he is talking about. However, he published a post outlining some of his main worries about XRP, and I just thought this was so fantastic because not only did he throw this out here, but David Schwartz really came in to answer it, since David Schwartz is by far the most knowledgeable person I have ever heard discuss XRP. I wanted to go over this again because it is crucial that we listen to everything he says. However, it addresses several very important myths that I'm sure some viewers of this film have also heard. We do have some BlackRock XRP news, so be sure to stay tuned after this. Stay put for that, but let's get right to the point. So Andre said, I know people are very opinionated about this, but I've been following XRP since 2014 and have still not found the solutions to these questions. I am sincerely seeking a sensible response. He hasn't been following XRP since 2014, in my opinion, or he isn't very adept at doing the study and deciphering this information. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt there, though. He asserts Ripple has 300+ banking partnerships, but after 13 years, shouldn't there be billions in daily on-chain volume? The on-chain volume is billions of dollars, but whatever, let's go on our way. Why use XRP for transfers instead of stable currency if it is volatile? What is the reason to hold it if volatility is not a problem because it is a bridge currency? Are bridge currencies still necessary when stablecoins will cover most of the pairs in the future? Why would industry titans like BlackRock tokenize using the XRP ledger rather than creating their own chains? Geopolitical danger. Why would other nations trust the payment network of a private firm based in the United States? Since I get to let David Schwartz answer them, it's kind of wonderful, but there are some really good questions and things that I would love to cover. The first thing David Schwartz says is that Ripple has more than 300 banking agreements, but after 30, he's just restating that. Thus, there is insufficient on-chain volume despite the 300+ financial partnerships. According to him, there are several reasons why organizations have traditionally favored using digital assets off-chain as opposed to on-chain. Institutions are beginning to recognize the advantages of going on-chain, so I believe we're on the verge of altering that. However, I concur that it has been slow, since we cannot be certain that a terrorist won't be adding or withdrawing liquidity, not even Ripple can utilize the XRP ledger DEX for payments at this time. This will be addressed by features like authorization domains. Because Ripple is in a position to know what their clients want and what they want to use, I think this is a really fascinating observation. Many institutions are obviously interested in adopting on-chain payments using Ripple, but they are unable to do so due to regulatory issues. Because it's so important, this is one of the things they always attempt to emphasize with Ripple. One of the few businesses that is genuinely collaborating with big financial institutions to determine their needs and provide native solutions on the XRP ledger is Ripple. According to David Tort, this has been a major issue, and the XRP ledger is putting a solution in place that would enable financial institutions to utilize the ledger's on-chain features while eliminating these compliance issues. Ripple is concentrating on ways to move trillions and quadrillions of dollars worth of assets held by the legacy financial system to the XRP ledger by paying attention to what they require in order to function and use the newly developed financial system, while the rest of the cryptocurrency industry is focused on disintermediating these assets. The next point is that XRP fluctuates. Why use it over stablecoin payments? Well, there are typically situations in which volatility is neither a drawback nor even a benefit. Generally, for most